With 2 minutes left before Wimbledon's mandatory 11 p.m. curfew, Coco Gauff stared down match point. One mistake meant returning the next day down a set, or worse, exiting the All England club early once again. A place in her first ever Wimbledon quarterfinal was on the line. Reaching the last 8 would make Gauff the youngest American woman to reach all 4 Grand Slam quarterfinals since Serena Williams in 2001. Olympic champion Belinda Bencic had historically pushed Gauff to the limit, taking 5 of their previous 7 encounters to 3 full sets. Bencic struck first on No.1 Court, suffocating Gauff with flat, early taking ground strokes to capture the opening set 6-4. When Gauff fought back to claim the second set 6-3, the third set turned into a high-stakes race, against both Bencic's counterpunching and the ticking stadium clock, serving for the match at 5-4 in the third set. As 10:58 p.m. hit, Gauff abandoned her usual baseline rhythm. Facing immense pressure, she executed an aggressive serve and volley attack on match point to seal the 4-6, 6-3, 6-4 comeback victory, with exactly 120 seconds to spare before play was halted. Tapping her wrist in a right-on-time gesture toward her team box, Gauff admitted in her press conference, "I was looking at the clock the last service game. That match point I was going for a serve and volley because I was like, I need to end the point." This was probably the most dramatic finish. The victory completed Gauff's full set of Grand Slam quarterfinals and set up an All-American clash against Jessica Pegula. For Bencic, it proved her elite form on grass following her return to top-flight tennis. Gauff didn't just beat the opponent across the net, she beat the clock, proving that when a pressure hits absolute maximum, true champions find another gear. 11 o'clock. That single number hung over No.1 Court all night. Not a score, not a ranking, a curfew. At the All England club, when the clock strikes 11, play stops. No warnings, no extensions, no exceptions. And on a warm July night at Wimbledon, that curfew turned an ordinary fourth-round match into one of the strangest, most tense finishes in recent tournament history. Coco Gauff wasn't even supposed to be fighting the clock. She was supposed to be fighting Belinda Bencic, but the day itself worked against her before she'd hit a single ball. Earlier on No.1 Court, Felix Auger-Aliassime and Alejandro Davidovich Fokina had played a marathon 5-set men's match, lasting 4 hours and 26 minutes. By the time it finally ended, Gauff and Bencic couldn't even walk onto the court until around 8:30, 8:40 at night. That left them a shrinking window to finish an entire best-of-3 match before the All England club shut the lights off, whether they were done or not. The stakes went far beyond just one round. Gauff had reached the 4th round at Wimbledon 4 times before, going all the way back to her stunning breakthrough as a 15-year-old in 2019, when she upset her childhood idol Venus Williams. But every single time since, she'd hit a wall at the round of 16. 5 tries, 5 exits. Grass was supposed to be her weakest surface, and Wimbledon was the major that kept saying no. A win here wouldn't just be a good result. It would complete something historic. Reaching the quarterfinals would make her the youngest American woman to reach the last 8 at all 4 Grand Slams since Serena Williams did it back in 2001. Bencic wasn't there to hand her anything. The Swiss veteran and former Olympic champion came out sharp, and for a moment, it looked like Gauff might actually cruise. She jumped to an early 3-0 lead in the first set. Then Bencic settled in. Point by point, game by game, she clawed her way back, erasing the deficit entirely and closing out the opening set. The clock was already ticking, and now Gauff was already behind. She answered in the second set, leveling the match and forcing a decider. But deciding sets at Wimbledon don't come with a scoreboard for time remaining, and this one started at 5 minutes past 10 at night. Less than an hour stood between Gauff and a suspended match that would force her back onto the court the next morning, tired, cold, and starting over. What followed was tennis played with one eye on the ball and one eye on the clock. Gauff broke serve in a marathon 9-point opening game of the set, then found a delicate drop shot forehand to manufacture a second break and put herself in position to close it out. But Bencic wasn't finished. She broke back, and suddenly it was Gauff who had to serve for a place in the quarterfinals, with the clock reading 10:56, 4 minutes to spare, if that. This is the moment everything changed. Not a shift in strategy so much as a shift in urgency. Gauff had a match point, and instead of settling into a long baseline rally the way she normally would, she went for broke, charging the net behind her serve, looking to end the point as fast as humanly possible, rather than risk a rally dragging into extra shots she didn't have time for. The serve went out wide. Bencic couldn't get it back. Match over. 10:58 p.m. 2 minutes before the lights would have gone dark on her night. Gauff's reaction said it all. She tapped her wrist, acknowledging just how close that finish really was. In her on-court interview, she couldn't stop smiling about it. "Super happy to be in the quarters finally," she said. "I don't know how many tries it's been. I was looking at the clock the last service game. I was like, I got to hit some big serves and big shots. Honestly, that match point I was going for a serve and volley because I was like, I need to end the point. This was probably the most dramatic finish. I've never had to race against time. Playing tennis, we're used to not having a clock. But honestly today, I felt the pressure. I'm glad I didn't choose basketball." She even compared the moment to something out of a different sport entirely, saying the finish reminded her of Kawhi Leonard's famous 4-bounce buzzer beater for the Toronto Raptors in 2019, the first Game 7 buzzer beater in NBA history. High praise, considering Gauff actually played basketball growing up. Asked if she'd pulled off a buzzer beater of her own, she laughed it off, saying she hadn't hit anything quite that dramatic, just a serve that got there in time. That the bigger picture here goes well beyond one dramatic scoreline. Gauff didn't just survive Belinda Bencic. She survived a 5-match losing streak at this exact stage of her favorite childhood tournament, and she did it while completing a genuinely rare piece of tennis history. Joining Serena Williams as the only players in over 2 decades to reach the Gaff IN